It's been 3 days since the South African ambassador, or the expelled South African ambassador, Ibrahim Rasool, returned back to his home country. Now, Donald Trump has nominated Leo Brent Bozell III, and the third is very important in this conversation as his pick for the new U.S. ambassador to South Africa. The nomination, officially dated the 24th of March, will be sent to the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. I largely appreciate the way the American system does those things. They vet and they interview whoever is being deployed on diplomatic missions. But who is Leo Brent Bozell III? He's a conservative political figure, media executive known for founding the Media Research Center, organization that monitors and critiques perceived liberal bias in the media. I've heard John Stewart of The Daily Show talk about him. I've also deployed my spies to the US. I have a friend who works in the nexus of politics and journalism, and asked, who is this Leo Brent Bozell III? And he gave me this little biography of the dynasty of the Bozells. He says, and I'll read directly from the message sent back from my mission in Washington. It's actually kind of amazing. The Bozells are a conservative political dynasty. The first one was a businessman and strikebreaker. The second one, this one's father, founded National Review with William F. Buckley and was the ghostwriter of Barry Goldwater's biography. This one's thing was media bias, this one being Leo Brent Bozell III. His thing was media bias and notoriously was outed as having a ghostwriter for his own columns. And then finally, there's Leo IV, who appears to be an idiot and was arrested for storming the Capitol. It's a real descent in generational politics. Not my words, it's my spy in Washington, Professor John Stremlau, Honorary Professor of International Relations. I've given a brief biography of Leo Brent Bozell. Any truth, any accuracy to the depiction given to me of who could be the US's next ambassador to South Africa?
Well, you've given a very, very comprehensive intro, and I appreciate that because I hadn't heard of Brent Bozell until yesterday, and I've been scrambling myself to figure out who he is and whether or not South Africa should welcome him here if he is confirmed by the Senate. That's a big if, and I'm glad you highlighted that, Lester, because he's got to pass muster with the Senate, but I think that they will probably pass him without any difficulty. So the question is, should South Africa receive him? And while I am an enormous fan of Ambassador Rasool's, and I thought his statement yesterday on Sunday was extremely, the written statement was extremely thoughtful and balanced and approached. But he is not anti-Semitic as alleged by the Trump administration, but he is anti-Zionist. And I think that Bozell looks to me like he's so far into supporting the current policies of the Bibi Netanyahu regime that he must be at least a de facto Zionist. Now, should South Africa welcome him down here? Yes, I think it would be good for him to come and see what this democracy is all about, which is diversity and inclusion and equity, which we're struggling with. So I'm supportive of both not appointing an ambassador to Washington anytime soon, but also saying, well, let him come down and smell the air here and in the politics.
And while a country can choose to not accept an ambassador's appointment, it's called the agreement process where before an ambassador can be posted to a foreign country, the host country must formally accept the appointment. And while countries can choose to do so, I am sure that South Africa would receive Ambassador designate Bozell warmly and hospitably, because as even Ibrahim Rasool says, the politics of morality can be used as a tool to tell an incoming Donald Trump envoy to say, you may have a perception, or your president may have a perception all the way there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue at the Mar-a-Lago estate of who we are. But like as we've seen with Donald Trump's former appointment, Lana Marks, also a softening.
The bag lady.
Yes, the bag lady, quite literally. Also a softening in the relations between Trump and South Africa after an ambassador is appointed.
Well, maybe, but this appointment is provocative, to say the least, in that he's pro-Zionism, and that this is not what South Africa is about. It's anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Semitic at all, and it enshrines diversity of religion in the Constitution and respect for all faiths. But the decision taken by the now DERCO minister, Ronald Lamola, to push that case forward to the World Court, which I thought was a brilliantly argued and compelling case that the court found plausible genocide in the militaristic response to the Gazans problem, that is all going to be defended, and Bozell is just going to have to swallow it, and because they're not going to change, South Africa is not going to change on this, and you know, my old boss Jimmy Carter in 2006 wrote "Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid." And so that was 20 years ago, and it is clearly hell-bent, the Netanyahu regime, on ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, and Trump seems to be on board with that. And I think that the PayPal mafia, the ex-South Africans who made a lot of money in PayPal, Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and all the rest, they are pro-Zionism, and that's a distinction that is important to keep in mind, because while there are Zionists here in South Africa, you can believe whatever you want to believe politically. There is no anti-Semitic feeling, and I see in our ANC branch Jews who are pro-Palestinian, at least for the two-state solution.
You're right. South Africa is highly unlikely to change its course when it comes to forwarding that case in the International Court of Justice. What I have seen is many leading international figures. Look, after Donald Trump's first salvo towards South Africa about very, very bad things here, you had almost all EU ambassadors almost in concert tweeting about how they appreciate South Africa. We had Ursula von der Leyen here just two weeks ago, and then also 100 MPs from parliaments around the world signing a memorandum in support of the South African government and what it faces against the US. The former Greek finance minister, Yanis Varoufakis, the former Labour Party leader, Jeremy Corbyn, mentioning expressly what we're seeing in South Africa's receiving the attack from Washington is in response to the ICJ case. So while there is a lot of noise coming from Washington, plenty of support in the West, in the EU, and the global South for South Africa.
Well, that's absolutely right, and Rasool has rightly said, let's keep let's be cool, and let's keep and build these coalitions. and reach out for support from everyone that is coming here. And the EU sent down that high-level delegation, 2 weeks ago, and they pledged 94 billion rand for exactly the kind of things, climate change and vaccine research, that Trump had summarily cut off in his ignorant little memo that he talked about egregious South African behavior as a threat to the United States, for heaven's sakes. And then he said offered Afrikaners refugee status in the U.S. while he's expelling people of color. So it's pretty clear what he's all about. And so I think that having Bozell down here without an ambassador in Washington, let's just cool it for now.
Yeah.
And why have an argument about who should be the ambassador when there's no assistant secretary of African affairs and there's no clear-cut policy toward Africa, but only South Africa, which is a thorn in the side of Trump and his advisors.
Yeah. Professor John Stremlau, I really appreciate your time. And I believe Cyril Ramaphosa will receive Leo Bozell. He will accept his credentials and he will take a photograph and a firm handshake and say, welcome to South Africa. Looking forward to working with you here.